Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are taking a look at a career that is truly foundational to modern comedy, I think.
Absolutely. We're talking 6 decades here.
Yeah, 6 decades, from the late 1950s right up until 2020. Our subject is Frederick Charles Willard.
Fred Willard, the absolute master of playing that character.
Yeah.
You know the one. Supremely confident.
Totally lost, completely clueless, yeah.
It's an incredible body of work to even start navigating. Willard, born back in 1933, he really specialized in that very specific kind of comedic character.
The sincere one, the well-meaning guy.
But fundamentally clueless, right?
Yeah.
Often an authority figure, too.
Yeah.
And he didn't, lean on irony or sarcasm much.
No, it was all about earnest bewilderment. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
He was just everywhere. You couldn't miss him. Sketch comedy, those seminal mockumentaries.
Oh, the guest films, definitely.
Huge sitcoms like Everybody Loves Raymond, Modern Family, and just tons and tons of voice work.
Endless voice work.
So our mission today for you listening is to really dig deep into the sources. We've got a full biography, filmography, and try to understand the physics of his genius, maybe.
Yeah, the physics. I like that. How did this one specific persona, this clueless but earnest guy, stay so fresh and stay so, ubiquitous for so long?
And how did a performer who was actually, highly trained, very skilled, how did he get so brilliant at playing total incompetence?
That tension, that's the core, isn't it? The trained pro playing the flustered novice or the oblivious expert.
Yeah.
It runs right through his life story.
So we're going to map that trajectory from his surprisingly structured beginnings to him reigning as the undisputed king of the unscripted, ill-informed commentator.
Let's get into it.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the contrast between his background and his career is, it's pretty jarring when you look at it.
Well, you look at his foundational years, right?
Yeah.
And it's all about structure, discipline. He grew up in Shaker Heights, Ohio, and he faced a pretty major trauma early on. His father died in 1945. Fred was only, 12 years old?
Yeah, just 12. And that maybe points towards that need for structure you see in his education. He didn't go off to some arts college.
No, not at all. He graduated from the Kentucky Military Institute in 51.
KMI, right. And then the Virginia Military Institute, VMI, in 1955. These are serious military schools.
Very serious. And the discipline didn't stop there. He then actually served in the United States Army, got stationed overseas in West Germany.
Okay, pause there for a second. Think about that. The guy who would become famous for just meandering, slightly off-color commentary during the chaos of a Christopher Guest film.
Yeah, totally unscripted stuff.
He was educated and trained under some of the most rigid, highly disciplined military systems around. It's wild.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? That central question you raised earlier.
Did that intensely structured military background somehow, inform the type of characters he ended up specializing in? Those authority figures who are just off.
I think it absolutely must have. But maybe, counterintuitively.
How so?
Well, think about his characters. Ed Harkin, the news director. Buck Laughlin, the dog show guy. Shelby Forthright, the CEO in Wall-E.
Right. They're all authority figures.
Exactly. But they're never actually disorganized, are they? They don't lose their composure. Not really. They're rigid. They stick to the rules of the presentation. They show up. They speak confidently. They hold the microphone right.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
But they completely, hilariously misunderstand the spirit, the content of what they're supposed to be talking about.
So the military might have instilled that sort of fundamental, unquestioning structure.
Yeah, maybe that became the perfect, inflexible frame for all the comedic absurdity you poured into it.
That's a really interesting take. It's amazing, then, that this foundation of structure immediately gives way to, the fluid chaos of the New York stage.
Right. He starts his stage career there in the late 1950s, and the real momentum kicks in when he forms this crucial partnership, Willard and Greco.
Willard and Vic Greco.
Yeah. They met, apparently, just by chance, in a YMCA production of Desperate Hours. Can you imagine?
Huh. No, from VMI to a YMCA play.
And they started performing their variety act in Greenwich Village pretty soon after. They were skilled performers, both of them. Found success almost immediately, actually.
Yeah, they started popping up on the major variety shows of the time.
We're talking huge visibility, right? The Dean Martin Show, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. They were on The Tonight Show frequently.
They were clearly heading somewhere. Stars in the making, you'd think. But then comes this major twist in the road. They split up in 1968.
And the reason, according to the sources, it's kind of painful. A classic showbiz story, really.
Bad management.
Seems like it. Poor management apparently led directly to them missing out on some really pivotal roles. Roles they'd actually been offered on these huge, iconic programs.
Wow. Like what?
Missing out on parts in Get Smart and The Carol Burnett Show.
Oh, man. Get Smart. Carol Burnett, that's devastating. Imagine if either of those roles, those steady, high-profile gigs, had actually happened.
His career path could have been totally different, couldn't it? Maybe pushed him more towards traditional TV character work, less towards the pure improv that eventually made him, well, Fred Willard.
But that setback, it sort of forced his hand, didn't it? Pushed him towards the arena where he really belonged. Pure improv.
It seems like it. He transitioned pretty quickly to the Second City in Chicago.
Right, the legendary improv incubator.
And he was working alongside contemporaries who also became legends in their own right. People like Robert Klein, David Steinberg.
Oh, what a class.
This was clearly his crucial training ground. And it led directly to him founding this other improvisational group, Ace Trucking Company.
Ace Trucking Company, I remember them. Who else was in that?
Michael Mislove was one. Bill Saluga.
Bill Saluga. You can call me Ray.
You can call me Jay. Yeah, that guy. Ace Trucking Company became this, absolute phenomenon for a while.
They became real regulars on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Over 50 sketches, the sources say. That kind of repeat exposure on the biggest show on TV, that's critical.
Invaluable. What was their humor like?
The sources suggest it was often highly physical, kind of awkward, slightly surreal scenarios sometimes. Like, there was a sketch where they played these inept, totally literal construction workers trying to fix a stage set.
Okay, I can picture Willard in that, selling the mundane absurdity.
Exactly, on a massive stage. That visibility was just crucial for getting his face and his slightly uncomfortable but always enthusiastic delivery out to a national audience.
But, okay, before he became the sort of beloved figure we mostly remember, he had this really strange film debut back in 1967.
Yeah, this detail, it provides such weird context for the industry back then.
Yeah.
He debuted in an exploitation film called Teenage
Mother. Okay.
And the anecdote that Willard himself apparently told about it later, it's genuinely shocking.
Go on.
He recalled that during one screening of the film, the audience actually booed.
Booed him. Why?
They booed when his character intervened to interrupt an attempted sexual assault of the female lead.
Wait, what? They booed because he stopped it.
Apparently. The nature of that specific, 1960s exploitation genre was apparently so dark, so twisted, that the audience preferred the exploitation over the intervention.
That is deeply unsettling.
It really is. But even in that early, frankly jarring role, Willard was kind of playing the figure who disrupts the expected flow, right? The uncomfortable, maybe well-meaning guy who just can't quite read the room, or in this case, the really mess-up genre he was in.
Wow. A truly unsettling start, but maybe one that, ironically, paved the way for the breakthrough role that would really define him.
Yeah, moving into the mid-70s, that's when we get the character that truly established his comedic language.
Jerry Hubbard.
Jerry Hubbard. Okay, refresh my memory.
1977 and 1978, he played the obtuse sidekick and announcer to Martin Mull's character, Barth Gimble.
Ah, right, on Fernwood Tonight, and later America Tonight. Exactly. And this wasn't just like any talk show parody. This was spun off from Mary Hartman. It was groundbreaking stuff.
Revolutionary, really, because they had this total deadpan commitment to parodying the absolute worst, most mundane parts of local late-night TV.
And they never broke character. They kept a straight face through all the absurdity, forcing the audience to kind of grapple with how weird it all was.
And Jerry Hubbard was the perfect foil for Mull's cynical host, Barth Gimble. Hubbard was just the picture of wide-eyed, slightly inappropriate enthusiasm.
Totally. He'd announce the guests, make these little comments on the show, launch into complete non-sequiturs.
All delivered with this absolute, unshakable, yet totally unfounded confidence.
He was the enthusiastic buffoon, right? His commentary was always kind of banal, often missed the mark by a mile, but he delivered it like it was gold. So if you, listening, wanted to find the sort of year zero point for Buck Laughlin in Best in Show, or Ron Albertson in Waiting for Guffman, the guy totally confident in his failure to grasp what's happening, Jerry Hubbard is it. That role established the blueprint. That clueless earnestness thing became his trademark. He was the perfect, inflexible structure for Martin Mull's satire to just bounce right off of.
And the visibility he got from Fernwood, that translated pretty quickly into more mainstream success, didn't it?
It did. He became an original cast member on that popular NBC series, Real people.
Real people. A pioneering reality show, in a way.
Yeah, he started in 79, then came back for a longer run from 81 to 83.
That's a huge pivot, though, right? Going from subversive late-night satire to, like, major network reality TV.
It is, but he kind of maintained that slightly detached, observant persona, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he also started flexing those comedic authority figure muscles by actually hosting shows.
Which the industry actually started to recognize him for.
Indeed. He hosted a talk show called What's Hot, What's Not, 85 to 86.
Okay.
And what's often overlooked is that this role actually earned him a Daytime Emmy Award nomination for Outstanding Talk Show Host.
Get out. Seriously.
Seriously. The irony is just delicious, isn't it? He gets nominated for legitimately hosting a show, even though his whole comedic thing was playing the parody of a competent host.
That's amazing.
He kept doing that kind of work, too. Hosted a cable show, Access America, in 1990. And he even popped up in that really cult public access TV show, Decoupage.
He was just sort of weaving himself into the fabric of television, blurring the lines between the real and the absurd, which meant he was also showing up everywhere in supporting roles in movies.
Yeah, he collaborated with Steve Martin pretty early on. Played Mayor Deebs in the 1987 film Roxanne.
Oh yeah, Mayor Deebs. I'd rather be bird watching.
Ah, exactly. And he had that lovely, long-running reunion with his old Fernwood partner, Martin Mull, on Roseanne.
Right. He played Scott, who was the romantic partner of Mull's character, Leon Karp.
And that was a significant arc back then.
Yeah.
The couple got married in the December Bride episode. Pretty groundbreaking for network TV at the time.
It really was. And Scott became a recurring character in those last two seasons, 95 to 97.
It really speaks to his ability, I think, to add a certain depth to characters who maybe at first glance seem like just simple comic relief. Scott was funny, sure, but he was also presented as a fully integrated, loving partner.
He just had this knack for popping up and stealing scenes in major sitcoms. That became a real hallmark.
Oh, totally. I love the detail from his guest role on Sister. You remember that one?
Vaguely. Remind me.
He played Karl Matuszka, a high school teacher. And his whole running gag was that he was constantly trying to use popular teenage slang to sound cool to his students.
Oh, God, yeah. Cringe comedy before it was a term.
And failing miserably every single time. It's just another perfect example of that established figure trying desperately and failing completely to connect with the culture he's supposed to be, guiding or understanding.
And his voice, even then, was already becoming instantly recognizable, even in animation.
Yeah, he voiced Wally Kogan, the travel agent, in The Simpsons, that episode Sunday, Cardi's Sunday, back in '99.
So really, by the end of the millennium, he was truly integrated into pretty much every form of mass media comedy you could think of.
Okay, so if the 70s kind of established the persona, the 90s and 2000s absolutely perfected it. This is where his work with Christopher Guest really takes center stage.
Yeah, Willard was just essential, wasn't he? To that whole mockumentary genre, Guest pioneered. His natural comedic style just fit perfectly with that unscripted, character-driven improv approach.
It's a really crucial distinction we need to make for you listening. This isn't your traditional sketch comedy improv, with setups and punchlines clearly laid out.
No, Guest style demands that the actor stay completely committed to this deep, often very mundane reality, no matter how absurd the details around them get.
And Willard excelled at that because, he seemed totally unafraid of silence, for one thing. And he was just so confident in his character structure, that clueless rigidity we talked about, that he could just wait for the absurdity to naturally bubble up around him.
Exactly. He wasn't just like ad-libbing jokes off the cuff. He was living as this fully realized, if hilariously diluted character in the moment.
Totally inhabiting it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's break down some of those iconic guest roles. 1996, we get Waiting for Guffman.
Ron Albertson, the travel agent who performs in community theater with his wife, played by Catherine O'Hara.
And Ron Albertson just embodies that whole military structure applied to a ridiculous pursuit idea we discussed. He treats this little community play in Blaine, Missouri, like it's a major Broadway production.
Right. Applying the rigid logic of, package holiday tours to the world of amateur dramatics. We have rooms blocked off.
Yeah. That performance earned him an American Comedy Award nomination and a Screen Actors Guild nomination, too, for Funniest Supporting Actor.
Deservedly so. And then came what I think for many people is the absolute comedic peak, Best in Show in 2000.
Buck Laughlin, the clueless bike show announcer.
Oh, man. His character was just designed, it feels like, to be the ultimate, well-meaning, utterly ill-informed commentator.
Buck Laughlin is the archetype, isn't he? He's supposed to be the authoritative voice of the Mayflower Kennel Club dog show broadcast.
Yeah, guiding the viewer through this prestigious event.
But he treats it like it's, I don't know, a regional monster truck rally or something. His commentary is just this unending stream of bad jokes, totally distracting non sequiturs.
Off-color comments that have absolutely zero to do with the dogs or the competition. He must have been the runt of the litter talking about the judge.
Uh-huh. Yeah. He's supposed to be guiding you, the viewer, but he's constantly pulling you off track into his own, personal fog of confusion.
Yeah.
About nuts, about his wife's catalog.
That role just brought him incredible critical recognition, didn't it?
Huge. Boston Film Critics Award, American Comedy Award, a Sierra Award, and a major tribute from the American Film Institute, AFI. It just cemented his reputation as the absolute master of that kind of improv.
And the absurdity just kept rolling with a mighty wind in 2003.
Mike LaFontaine, the former folk musician turned kind of cheesy TV host, famous for that completely baffling, totally detached catchphrase.
Hey, what happened? What did that even mean?
Nobody knows. That was the genius of it. It meant nothing.
He came back again for your consideration in 2006.
As Chuck, the obnoxious entertainment TV show anchor. Another perfect fit.
And again in Mascots in 2016 as Greg Gammons, another clueless commentator type.
And we should definitely remember he was actually working with guests right at the very beginning of the whole mockumentary phenomenon. He played LT Bob Hookstrat
Air Force liaison.
in the foundational 1984 film This Is Spinal Tap. Have a good time all the time.
His presence across basically all of those films just shows how essential he must have been to Guest's creative process. His characters always provided that specific, hilarious tension. You know, the confident presentation versus the complete lack of self-awareness.
Absolutely. And while he was doing all that really nuanced, character-driven improv work, he was simultaneously just dominating supporting roles in Hollywood's big comedy features.
Which proved his consistency, right?
Totally. He could deliver in any format. Exactly. He's the mission commander in Austin Powers. The spy who shagged me in '99.
Right. Trying to make sense of Austin's time travel.
He's Harold Flaherty, the kind of uptight father of Jim's fiancée, Michelle, in American Wedding in 2003.
Trying to connect with Stiefler. Good luck with that.
And critically, he's the news director Ed Harkin in Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy in 2004.
A role he reprised in the sequel in 2013.
And Ed Harkin is just another perfect manifestation of that rigid but totally disconnected manager figure.
Yeah, he's the boss trying desperately to maintain some semblance of control over a news team that has just gone completely off the rails. He's like the last bastion of structure in a world of pure, unadulterated chaos by the beard of Zeus.
And we absolutely cannot forget his just staggering output on late-night TV, especially with Jay Leno.
Oh, yeah, The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. He did something like 100 sketches.
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah.
And the consistent running gag, it was brilliant in its simplicity. He would always play some kind of government official or figure of authority.
Like a judge, a senator, police chief, that kind of thing.
Right. And the key detail was he was always drinking, usually out of a thermos or a coffee mug.
That small detail just encapsulates his genius, doesn't it? Competence is always just slightly out of reach because the figurehead is either distracted, confused, or, mildly inebriated.
Perfect. Okay, so moving into the 2000s, Willard really achieved peak small screen presence, especially in the sitcom world. And this led to a real surge in critical recognition for him, too.
Definitely. His recurring role on Everybody Loves Raymond as Hank McDougal, Marie and Frank's neighbor, that was a significant part of this later phase.
Hank McDougal,
Right.
right, Amy's father, played alongside Georgia Engel as Pat.
Yeah, Hank and Pat. They provided this brilliant comedic counterpoint to the central Barone family dynamic, didn't they? They were the painfully polite, sort of repressed, wealthy Presbyterian neighbors.
Contrasting perfectly with the loud, chaotic, brutally honest Italian-American Barones next door. That contrast was just masterful.
Yeah.
The McDougal's constant attempts at highbrow politeness and decorum always just crashing headfirst into the Baron's complete lack of filter.
It's great television. And this nuanced supporting role, it really paid off for him. He got 3 consecutive Primetime Emmy Award nominations for it.
3 years in a row, 2003, 2004, 2005. outstanding guest actor in a comedy series. That's huge recognition.
And then he secured a whole new generation of fans, really, through his role as Frank Dunphy on Modern Family.
Phil's dad, yeah, across 13 episodes, he was just revealed to be the charming, slightly unhinged root of Phil Dunphy's own boundless, naive optimism.
You could totally see where Phil got it from when Frank showed up. The relationship between Frank and Phil was often really heartwarming, actually.
It was, often revolving around Frank's, failed business ventures or his completely earnest, if often totally misguided, hobbies and inventions.
And he delivered all those lines with that signature deadpan lack of awareness. Just perfect casting.
His performances there were also recognized. 2 more Primetime Emmy nominations in the same guest actor category, one in 2010.
And remarkably, a posthumous nomination in 2020 after he passed away. I mean, his industry recognition literally spanned the entire length of his long career. It's incredible.
And that unmistakable voice, right? That slightly nasal, always enthusiastic tone. It just translated perfectly into animation.
Oh, his voice work is extensive, if you start looking into it.
It really is. He voiced the nudist dad, Dave Campbell, in Family Guy. Officer Brown in King of the Hill.
He was the boogeyman, wasn't he, in the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy franchise?
Yeah, the persistent, sort of incompetent villain. And back in 2006, he also voiced DJ's dad in that Academy Award-nominated animated film, Monster House.
But hang on, there's one really unique Pixar milestone that's tied directly to his career. We absolutely have to detail this one.
Yes, 2008. The film WALL-E. He played Shelby Forthright.
The CEO of the Large Corporation, the guy on all the video screens.
And this is fascinating, just from a technical production standpoint. Those segments, the ones featuring Willard as the corporate leader speaking from the past via these video messages, they were Pixar's first ever live-action speaking segments used in one of their feature films.
Really? The very first?
The very first. He wasn't animated in those bits. He was filmed live-action, acting directly into the camera as this, detached, slightly exasperated corporate face trying and failing to manage this galaxy-wide environmental crisis his company caused.
Wow. That's kind of poetic, isn't it? He's literally the live-action human face of the past, trying to manage this technologically advanced, automated future, the bewildered human in a robot world. Perfect casting again.
It really is. And his late career just kept bringing honors and these really unique roles.
Yeah.
In 2015, he received the Art Gilmore Career Achievement Award for the Pacific Pioneer Broadcasters, acknowledging his long, long history in the industry.
And he even scored a win at the Daytime Emmys, which you wouldn't necessarily expect.
I know. He tied, actually, with some other legendary performers for Outstanding Special Guest Performer in a Drama Series for his work on the soap opera, The Bold and the Beautiful.
Playing John Forrester, right? 2014, 2015. Just proving he could nail the daytime soap opera genre with the same kind of, well, maybe not gravitas, but commitment he brought to mockumentaries.
There's also this perfect, totally meta-comedic detail about his one-man show. It was titled Fred Willard, Alone at Last.
Okay.
Except it wasn't a solo performance at all. The sources confirm it featured a cast of 12 people.
Of course it did.
And it won Los Angeles Artistic Director Awards for Best Comedy and Best Production. Only Fred Willard would title his big stage show Alone at Last, and then have an entire ensemble cast up there with him.
That's brilliant. He maintained just a ferocious working pace right up to the very end, didn't he?
He really did. He was a frequent, high-profile guest on Jimmy Kimmel Live in his final years.
Yeah, I remember those appearances.
And he totally embraced playing these parodies of current and historical figures, always with that slightly askew, Willard-esque take. He portrayed everyone from, Fred Trump to George Washington.
And memorably, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yes. And his final work, the stuff released posthumously, it ties his long career into this really neat circle.
How so?
He was cast as Fred Naird, the Secretary of Defense character's father, in the 2020 Netflix series Space Force.
Right, with Steve Carell.
And that whole series concept, centered on this absurd military operation in space. It actually mirrored the concept from a failed TV pilot he'd starred in way back in 1978.
No way. What was that called?
It was also called Space Force. He played Captain Thomas Woods in that version.
That's incredible. Full circle.
Isn't it? And his final actual on-screen role was apparently in a 2021 TV movie called Captain Daddy. So a career that kind of started with structure in the military, found its comedic footing, lampooning things like Space Forces early on, and then ended decades later, post-mortem, in another space comedy. Amazing.
So, to really understand the whole man, I think we also need to look briefly at the stability in his personal life, which seems to contrast with a very public and probably very difficult challenge he faced late in his career.
Yeah, the anchor of his life really seems to have been his very long and stable marriage to Mary Lovell.
How long were they married?
50 years. They married in 1968, and she sadly passed away in 2018. They raised a daughter together, Hope Willard, and they had a grandson too.
Wow, half a century. That's a remarkable foundation of stability, especially for someone in show business, and maybe especially for a man whose professional reputation was built on embracing improvised chaos.
It really is. In 2012, however, he did face this highly stressful, very publicly reported incident, and it led to some immediate professional consequences for him.
Right. We should be careful here and just report the facts of the event impartially, just drawing on the details provided in the sources we have.
Okay, so on July 18th, 2012, the sources report that Willard was arrested on suspicion of engaging in lewd conduct, specifically misconduct, at an adult theater on Santa Monica Boulevard in Los Angeles.
He was taken into custody, apparently, at the LAPD Hollywood station.
Correct. Now, crucially, the sources also confirm that ultimately, due to a lack of proof of any actual misconduct occurring, no criminal charges were ever filed against him.
Okay, that's important. No charges filed. However, the professional damage was pretty immediate, wasn't it?
It was. PBS fired Willard from his hosting role on their show, Market Warriors, almost immediately after the news of the arrest broke.
Wow, that fast.
Yeah. Willard did address the incident publicly later. He stated that it was very painful and very embarrassing, but he maintained, quote, "I did nothing wrong."
Okay.
Despite the lack of charges, the sources do detail that he was subsequently required by the authorities to take part in a sex education diversion program.
So, clearly a stressful, highly visible, and probably quite damaging incident that, at least momentarily, overshadowed a career that was built almost entirely on good-natured, if often clumsy, humor.
A difficult chapter, no doubt.
Before we wrap up, there's one small, slightly confusing detail regarding his age that's worth mentioning, just because it feels like such a classic Fred Willard-esque detail somehow.
Yes. The inconsistency about his birth year.
What was that again?
Well, officially, the sources all confirm his birth year was 1933, which would make him 86 when he passed away in 2020. And his daughter, Hope, confirmed he was 86 at the time of his death. So 1933 seems correct.
Okay, seems straightforward. So what's the confusion?
Well, apparently in a 2012 interview, Willard himself claimed he was born in 1939.
So he made himself 6 years younger.
Seems like it. This minor, almost harmless discrepancy just sort of skewing his own age in an interview, it feels perfectly fitting, doesn't it? For a figure whose entire comedic persona was built on being just slightly confidently wrong about the most basic facts of his own reality.
That is actually perfect. Okay, so he passed away on May 15th, 2020, at his home in Los Angeles at the age of 86.
Yeah. His death was attributed to cardiac arrest with coronary artery disease and also myelodysplastic syndrome listed as contributing factors.
And the news was first announced very poignantly by Jamie Lee Curtis and her husband,
Christopher Guest.
Yeah.
Which again just underscores those deep, lasting, creative bonds and friendships he clearly forged throughout his very long life. He's buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in the Hollywood Hills. #outro.
So looking back across this really extensive deep dive into Fred Willard's life and career, I think the key takeaway, for me anyway, is just Willard's unique, almost unparalleled ability to be gloriously out of his depth, as you put it, right?
Yeah, but while maintaining absolute confidence, that's the key.
Exactly. He specialized in finding all the humor in that sort of banal, slightly inappropriate enthusiasm. He created this specific comedic thread, the well-meaning but fundamentally ill-informed man, and he just mined it brilliantly for 6 decades.
He was a comedic constant, wasn't he? Precisely because those characters, the hapless leader, the clumsy expert, they never really deviated from their rigid, confident structure. They just applied that structure incorrectly or inappropriately to every single new situation they found themselves in.
And in doing so, he somehow made these often quite complex, flawed characters relatable to us, the viewers, people who are constantly facing information overload ourselves and are often guided or perhaps misguided by commentators who seem to miss the point entirely. So what does this all mean for us today? If we kind of connect this consistent comedic thread to the bigger picture, maybe there's a final thought here for you to consider. We have to think about Willard's technique, that reliable, ill-informed commentator, the enthusiastic man who knows just enough to be dangerously wrong.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that now like the fundamental structure of so much of modern social media and internet culture?
Wow. That's That's a fascinating, almost prophetic implication, isn't it?
Think about it. His characters, right? From Buck Laughlin offering unsolicited, nonsensical advice about dog handling.
Now tell me, what commentators,
Yeah.
what competitors have you seen that have impressed you the most? Completely ignoring the dog show itself.
Right. Or Ed Harkin trying desperately to manage a chaotic news desk that's just spiraling out of control. They fundamentally served as these filters who completely misunderstood the action they were supposed to be observing or managing.
They were the perfect satire of confident incompetence, long before we had, influencers confidently giving terrible advice online.
Exactly. So, does his extensive body of work, perfected over 60 years, maybe serve as the foundational critique? A kind of unintentional, prophetic satire of the ubiquitous yet often completely clueless, self-proclaimed expert, and the overwhelming yet often totally useless commentary that seems to define so much of our current digital age.
Hmm. Something definitely for you to mull over the next time you scroll through a comment section just exploding with completely detached, unearned confidence. Fred Willard may have seen it all coming.